Hey there, and welcome to episode 8 of the Power of Practice podcast, the NLP Communications Model.
Welcome to the Power of Practice podcast with Matthew Tweedy. Discover how to leverage the potential of your unconscious mind so you can create an abundant and empowered existence. Here's your host, Matthew Tweedy.
Welcome back, gang. Today I'd like to talk to you all about something that's really important when it comes to human communication and how we perceive the world. I'm going to talk and be referring to a diagram that I've linked to the show notes. So go ahead and jump onto the website and take a moment to have a look at this diagram and reference. Now, looking at the diagram, you can see our little man here, and what we've got is an external event. That external event comes in from the outside world. And it goes into his head and it filters that information in some way, and the filters do a process. If you've printed out this image for yourself for the purposes of studying or refreshing, you can actually go ahead and write the word do right next to delete, distort, and generalize. So write the word do next to delete, distort, and generalize on that image. Now, the filters do the job of deleting, distorting, and generalizing, and they filter our experience of time, space, matter, and energy. Our language, the language that we speak, and those of you that are multilingual know that when you're thinking in a different language, the world is a different place. Our memories and decisions also filter our external experience, along with our meta programs, our values, our beliefs, and our attitudes. Those all filter our external experience, and then that experience comes inside and we make an internal representation of it. That internal representation is intimately coupled with the state, and that state is intimately coupled with the physiology, which you'll notice leads to behavior. Now, if you are taking notes, I'd like you to take a pen and make a circle around the part that says internal representation, because that's really important for NLP, as well as any other communication that we do. As we begin, and as you're beginning to learn NLP and just simply getting into it, I'd like you to begin by noticing the kinds of words that you use and the kinds of words that people around you use. Along with that, I'd like you to begin to notice what's the internal representation that you're making inside of your head. I'd like you to think about what is the order and sequence of those internal representations. Now, I'm not really just talking about positive thinking either. 40 years ago, they did a study on the major industrial accidents in the United States, and they found that there was a poster on the wall in the majority of those cases that told a person what not to do. You've probably seen these old posters. Now, one that I've got in my mind that's probably one of my favorites is the one where there's a guy with a banana peel and he's slipping on the banana peel. He's going up in the air and falling backwards. Underneath it, in big letters, it says, "Don't slip." Now, I think it makes a lot of sense to tell people what to do, but I'm not sure if it makes a lot of sense to tell people what not to do. And the reason is because your mind can't process a negative directly. For example, if I were to say to you, "Don't think of a purple alligator," just for a minute, stop and notice what happens. If I say to you, "Don't think of a purple alligator," what are you thinking of? Probably you're thinking of a purple alligator, unless you're semantically trained. It's impossible to not think about something you're not supposed to think about. In fact, you can't actually do that. So as you consider this journey that you've embarked with me upon and the concepts that I will be covering inside of NLP and this NLP mindset, I'd like you to consider it in the light of your internal representation that goes on inside of your head. This is the basis of creating change, powerful personal change within yourself. The internal representations that are here on the left-hand side of the diagram. Notice it's impossible to hold a negative in consciousness directly. Now, if I were to say to you, don't think of a purple alligator, you might think of a purple alligator and then think to yourself, oh no, I'm not supposed to think of a purple alligator. So then you'd think of a green alligator. That's one possibility. So at very best, it might be a two-step process where you think about what you don't want to think about and then you think about what you do want to think about. Just think about that for a moment and realize it's not possible to think about what you don't want to think about without thinking about it first. Now, here's the thing. Your nervous system, the human body, and the human nervous system is an exquisite device. You've been given a device that is so efficient for producing behavior, but the behavior that it produces depends upon the internal representation that you make. And if you're making an internal representation that is about what you don't want, then you're likely to produce behavior that is also what you don't want. Think about kids as an example. Speaking to your kid and saying to him, don't go play in the street. Or maybe it's Easter time and you put a bowl of pretzels out on the table and you say, keep your hands off those pretzels. And he says, okay, no worries, as he grabs one. Because you've put something in his mind that perhaps wasn't even there in the first place. Now, this NLP communication model is very important in terms of our communication. And actually, the diagram that I'm referring to contains just about all of NLP. Now, ultimately, this is all about producing results. The type of results that you want to produce when it comes to day trading. Ask yourself the question, when I go to make a trade, what is the internal representation that I'm holding in my mind? Often, without being consciously aware, we're making internal representations of what we don't want. And as we bring those to conscious awareness, we gain so much more power and control over the outcomes that we create. So thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Power of Practice podcast. Know that you can find me at Matthew Tweedy Hypnosis on the web. Of course, the Instagram, Facebook, and the Power of Practice podcast. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review. And at the least, just go ahead and hit the subscribe or follow button, whether that be on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify. Keep growing and evolving, and we'll see you on the next one.